Awesome. I keep a Bible in front of me, just in case. I think you're all right. It was funny because I watched J.D. Vance and Donald Trump on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
They didn't wear headphones.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it.
Well, you don't need to wear headphones. So, for example, the headphones are only in effect so that we can be sure but we take these headphones off and put them aside and just talk like this. It's fine. Would you like to do that?
It's however you want to do it.
Yeah, let's try it. Okay? So we'll set the headphones aside and we'll just talk like, Donald Trump style. Okay? Because you're a special guest. You're a very special guest. All right, so we're gonna look into the camera. But you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to the Rich Point Podcast. I'm Pastor Matthew, and today we have a very special guest, my good friend, Phil Hathaway. Phil, thank you so much for being on the Bridgepoint Podcast.
Thank you for finally inviting me.
Welcome. Well, I finally invited you. Now, tell the truth. How did it really go when I invited you?
You posted on Facebook, and I commented I wasn't going to be interesting or something.
Oh, you said something like, well, that would definitely not be for me or something. We could find the exact quote, right?
Yeah, I could find the exact quote. And you sent me a request, and I accepted gladly. We just happened to make it with the following week. So.
Right. So, Phil, why is it that I want you on the podcast?
With everything that I've gone through in the last year, and then to show adversity with my disability.
Yeah. That's awesome.
To show that no matter what you have going on in your life, you can push through.
Yeah. One of the things, Phil, that I want people to know about you that I've discovered, I don't know, how long have we known each other? 2.5, 3 years?
About 3.
Yeah. And we've been involved in spiritual community. You serve on the security team. We have common interests in firearms and security. You have helped me and given me very kind gifts, especially with my hunting. That's been very kind. But I guess for me, the thing that has impressed me the most is just learning about what you've been through in your life. So I've watched you overcome a number of physical disorders that I think would, most people would just quit.
Yeah.
And you just don't quit, dude. You just do it. When I first met you, I was like, okay, he's in a wheelchair. How can I accommodate him? And bro, that's so not an issue with you. You're an overcomer. You just do it, you know? And so I want to just talk a little bit about what your disability is, what challenges you had growing up, and the kind of advice that you would give people. So tell us, most people don't know what your disability is. So what have you struggled with? What were you born with?
So I was born with spine bed. In 1980, they didn't know fully what it was at that point.
Wow.
They knew of it as a lack of folic acid during pregnancy that causes it. So
Okay.
it could be the mother is massively under stress or something else. So when I was born, L3, L4 vertebrae were exposed in my lower back. I was born at Porter Regional, Porter Health or whatever, or Porter Regional
on
Hospital.
Lincoln Way. It's no longer around, right?
Yeah,
it's been relocated.
Yeah. And at that point, they had no helicopters. They didn't know what helicopters were to transport. So I was taken by ambulance up to Children's Hospital in Chicago. So they did a surgery that day to close my back with a skin graft. So I have a skin graft. And so at that point, I was deemed with a lot of specialists. So at that point, once I had the surgery, they also noticed that the fluid in my brain wasn't draining correctly.
Mm.
So I have what's called a shunt placed on my left side to help drain the fluid off my brain. And then also along with that, my Achilles, my feet were stuck in an upright position. So my feet wouldn't move at all. So they didn't ended up cutting my Achilles. So I use what's called orthopedic braces to walk. So I'm able to walk short distances but I use the wheelchair for long distances and just general use.
Wow. And developmentally, what ongoing concerns? So you have this. It's not just that just happened to you as a child, and you can't just grow out of this.
No.
Like, this is going to affect. What areas has this spina bifida affected you? Because I don't know a lot about it, but I just feel like there's a spectrum. Like, there's people that have it worse and better.
It depends on what your level is. You could have it and you don't even notice it.
Really?
To where I think your daughter has a friend that has the same.
Yes, one of her very close friends.
So she's kind of like me, but she may be worse than me because she may be stuck in the chair full time.
Yeah, my understanding is that she has very little feeling in her lower extremities.
So I have feeling to a point. I could scrape my foot open and I probably wouldn't notice. I've done it in the past when I was little.
Wow.
So I don't notice that. I can feel down. I mean, I can feel pressure, but I don't know pain.
Really?
In my feet. So like if I stepped on something sharp and it went through my shoe, I wouldn't know. But at the same point, I wear leg braces, so it would have to go through the plastic and hit my foot. So I mean, that's. But at the same point, with me walking, it's getting harder. Obviously, I'm getting older, so everything's getting harder for me. With that, my one hip didn't fully enclose on the hip socket, so my hip shifts every time that I walk.
Wow. So when I watch you walk, it isn't simply the braces that are causing you to walk with the gait that you have.
No,
it's because your hip isn't formed fully.
Correct.
Wow, and it never will be.
Unless they do a hip replacement, which they have talked about.
Really?
They talked about it when I would see an orthopedic doctor.
Yeah. When was the last time they chatted you up about that?
The last time I saw an orthopedic doctor was probably when I was in my 20s.
Wow. And you are how old now?
44. I just turned 44 Friday.
Yeah. And how did this affect you growing up? Like, what was your emotional, spiritual life like as a youngster with a pretty significant disability?
Spiritually, we went to church for like 3 or 4 or 5 years in my first life, and then something happened that probably was out of my control, and I really don't remember it. My parents just stopped going to church. I was baptized as a Lutheran in Valparaiso.
Okay.
So I grew up Lutheran. Right, I remember going to the church right across from what is Valparaiso High School.
Christ Lutheran Church.
Yeah,
sure.
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember going there, but why we stopped, I don't know. As far as developmentally and emotionally and all that, I really didn't know any other way. You know, with regards to just moving, I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna crawl, do whatever, just get around. Then because it was the 80s, there wasn't that many people in the school system with disabilities.
I mean, were you the only one?
Now,
I could imagine that being the case.
I was the only one.
You were the only.
I was the very first one.
Wow. And you went to Valparaiso High School.
I went to Valparaiso schools all through K through 12 because of my mother.
Yeah. Now, people who don't know the Valparaiso school districts, they're regarded as very good.
Uh-huh.
Like, high-end facilities, like, I mean, very luxurious accommodations for the kids, excellent teaching, very nice neighborhoods. Like, we're not talking about a poorly equipped school. We're talking about a school that has the foundation of the community and the financial base in order to really do a good job. And yet, you were the first one.
So
Wow.
this was a time when the Americans with Disabilities Act really was just coming about. I don't remember when it exactly came out. So my mom fought because she knew I deserved more than just what the special education building could give me.
So did they want to put you?
They wanted to put me at self.
And so you would have been classified with people that may not have even had mental capacity. That would,
correct.
And so you were really not a fit for that.
Yeah, and so my mom fought
Wow.
my mom basically was the spearhead for me getting into the school system. She basically said, you're going to put a ramp in. Well, you can't walk down 3 sets of stairs to get to the cafeteria. She's like, he walks down 10 steps at what is my dad's house. You know, where I grew up, we had 10 steps going up and down the steps. She's like, he couldn't do it. So I would just have a walker at the very bottom, and I would walk to the cafeteria.
Oh. Did you have like a buddy or a help? Or
I
did you
think
have
so.
a system?
I think so.
Because when I was very young in elementary school, there was a young man who had muscular dystrophy. And he was actually a close friend of mine, and we would play together. And basically all we could do is like do ping pong and video games, because he was extremely limited in his ability. But I remember him being kind of like a celebrity. Like, first of all, he had a great personality, and everyone liked him, right? I don't ever recall anyone mocking him or belittling him. It was almost like, I don't know if the school created this or whether it just naturally happened. He was a Christian. Like, he was a very strong Christian family, right? And so that's how, like, he and I became friends, because our moms and dads knew each other. And his father was actually our family's accountant. And it was like a privilege to be this guy's buddy for the day. So, like, if he needed to go somewhere, if there was a transition, like, you would help him, you would carry his books and stuff like that. But he couldn't get out of his chair ever. So, did they have anyone helping you? Like, how did that go?
I kind of remember people helping me if I needed it.
Yeah.
But also my mom was like, they're like, well, what about bathrooms? Well, I ended up being allowed to use the principal's bathroom.
Oh, wow.
And my mom ended up getting a job at the school. So if I needed anything, my mom was there.
That's fantastic.
So she was with me all K through 5. And if I needed something, she was there.
Wow. What elementary school did you
I went to Cook's Corners. So
Cook's
at that
Corner,
point...
okay. That, I feel like, is that a newer school? I don't know, like... They've all been renovated so often, I don't know what it was like when you went through.
That school was completely renovated after I left, even Belleville schools. So it was... They didn't have a ramp put in before I went there. So they ended up having it at a ramp.
Yeah.
And then after I graduated, they completely renovated Cook's.
Little impetus for them to do
Yeah.
that. And of course, there were more students with disabilities that came after and might have even had more concerns and more needs than you. I mean, my opinion of you, and I don't know what you were like as a child, is that I didn't know when I first met you, I just met you and you were in a wheelchair. So I didn't know if you had been like in a tragic car accident and had lost the use of your lower extremities. I didn't know. And then, like, when you came over to my house and you just like hopped out of your chair and like started cruising along the sidewalk on your hands and then hopped up the steps and walked a little bit, I was like, bro can like do whatever he wants. I'm like, well,
yeah.
I was very impressed, actually. That was cool.
So I mean, I could walk most distances with crutches.
Okay.
So I used to hunt like 6, 7 years ago, um, but that's a whole nother topic. But I used to walk with a backpack and everything
Wow.
with crutches.
So do you have the kind that like go around your arms?
Yes, I have
and
the forearm crutches.
Yeah. Wow. Why do you choose not to do that?
What hunt?
Or no, use those as like an everyday thing.
It just back pressure with where my
Yeah.
scar is. It's just generally weaker,
Yeah.
and then my hips. After a while, they do hurt.
So tell them, what was your life like growing up? Were people highly supportive of you? I mean, obviously your mom clearly had to lobby and ask for the school to make the necessary adjustments, particularly in a day that was not actually disability persons friendly. That I think a lot has changed since then. You were a pioneer in that regard. Were people kind to you?
There were people that were kind, and then there were people that were downright rude.
Really?
You know, with regards to we'll put tacks in your tires. You don't belong here.
Really?
Yeah, we ended up. I remember in 5th grade, some kid kept putting tacks in my tires. We don't know who it was, but we ended up having to call the police, and then it got through the school that the police were involved. That hey, stop that.
Wow. And that was when you were in high school?
No, 5th grade.
So your mother's car tires?
No, my wheelchair tires.
Oh, they're inflatable?
Yeah, the wheelchair tires. You can get 2 types. You can get solid type, or you can get air types. So basically, the tires are just like bike tires.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And you had ones with air.
I still have air tires.
And I haven't taken a look at them. Oh, fascinating. Wow, so they're like, what are they at, like 90 PSI? I mean...
Yeah.
Okay,
They're
cool.
high pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like a road bike tire.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are, except they're classified as wheelchair tires, so they're $40 more.
What? That's almost criminal, you know that?
It is criminal.
I mean, come on. It's a bike tire, right?
Think about, how much do you think this chair cost?
I know they're very expensive.
$5,800.
What is it, made out of titanium?
Yeah.
Oh, it is made out, okay.
Titanium and aluminum are the 2 most common.
Yep.
There are some that are carbon fiber that are like ridiculous, but those haven't come to the stage yet.
Really? So the United States there are not carbon fiber wheelchairs?
There are some, but they're not as light as what they were made overseas.
So okay, this is just a fascinating thing for me, okay? And I'm not trying to create controversy, all right? But I recently bought a mountain bike, and I bought it knowing full well that it had been crashed and that the guy was getting rid of it because he bent the front handlebar. Now, in this particular mountain bike, it's not an extremely expensive one, but it's not a heebie-cheebie either, okay? Yeah. So the handlebar should cost $160.
Yeah.
Okay? I bought an all carbon fiber one off of like AliExpress or whatever from China, and they said for $18. I think it was 20 some bucks, $22 or something after tax and shipping or whatever. Like they didn't really try. Okay, and they said to me, like I bought it in September, and they said, you will get your bike handlebar somewhere between October 3rd and December 3rd. Well, that's fine. I've ordered things from China before. I got it in like a week. It just showed up, and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. There's nothing wrong with it. It is a high quality, high precision, all carbon fiber bike handle. It's amazing, okay?
Yeah.
Now, here's my question to you. Could you get one off of, this is just for kicks and giggles. Could you get one off of AliExpress? Because I'll bet they've got it. I mean, they've got to have it, yeah?
Okay, so with wheelchairs,
yeah,
if you make them wrong, you can have a whole bunch of health consequences. And I've had wheelchairs made wrong.
Explain.
So if you for example, the last wheelchair I got was from a company that I won't name because they
You don't want to diss them, but you're not happy with them.
I use a company out of Michigan City that the guy's in a wheelchair himself.
So he
And
knows.
so his nephew now runs the shop, but I trust them wholeheartedly because they measure me correctly. So the last company that I bought a wheelchair from, they put a 15-inch cushion in a 16-inch opening.
Okay.
I'm sorry, a 16-inch cushion in a 15-inch opening.
So
it was
jammed it in there.
Yeah, so it was actually causing a lot of health problems for me sitting all the time.
And you didn't notice that right away? Just
Because I don't have real good feeling down there.
Oh, wow.
And so...
I'm telling you, bro, we need to shop it. Just for fun. Okay?
Huh?
Offline, you and I are going to shop it, okay? We're going to look for carbon fiber wheelchairs. I'm into carbon fiber, dude. I'm not pushing you. We don't have to buy anything. You know what I mean? I think you like this idea. So we'll check it out. So
the last carbon fiber wheelchair I found was $10,000.
Yeah.
And that was
very expensive. Very expensive.
That was carbon fiber wheels, carbon fiber everything.
What's the weight differential between like your titanium and a carbon fiber?
Carbon fiber, the one I just mentioned was like 7 pounds total.
Okay.
With the one I have, I think it's 10 pounds just the frame, at about 6 for the wheels.
Okay.
So about 16 pounds total.
Yeah. So it's less than half.
Yeah, less than half. And it's made in Sweden.
Really?
Yeah.
Sweden.
Yeah.
I have an all carbon fiber race bike with titanium wheels, and it was a gift.
Yeah.
It was given to me. It's getting old. Like I think it's like 10 or 15 years old. So it's not like when it came out, it was one of the top bikes, right? It doesn't really matter.
No.
Like the thing, when I first rode it, it was like riding a feather, except it was the strongest thing I'd ever been on. It was weird. Like carbon fiber is amazing because it's so incredibly light, and yet it's completely strong and rigid. And it's like, it defies, like you feel that something this light should be like soft or breakable or weak, like a feather, right? A feather is very light, but it's not very strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh no. It's light as a feather and it's stronger than steel. It is truly remarkable stuff.
I mean, the stuff they can't do nowadays is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, with their autoclaves and all these resin technologies and different weaves and different things that they can do, it is. Let's look at it, okay? So let's go back to your disability. So you went through high school.
Yes.
What were some of the significant challenges that you had to face as you grew up?
I mean, I was one of the few that was in normal classes, I should say. With that being said, just getting around a lot of times was a little bit more challenging, especially at the high school, being 2 floors. Making sure that I had enough time on the elevator. I mean, I was normally the only one on the elevator getting on and off the elevator, so that was never a problem. Normally, whatever floor I was on, it was on the same floor as me. It really came down to what accommodations I would need. Would I need extra time to get from class to class? Would I need extra time for the bathroom? Would I need extra time to just do whatever? I had an IEP that followed me all through school just because of certain accommodations or whatever, but I never really used a lot of them.
So for those people who are not familiar, IEP stands for Independent Educational Program?
Protocol or program?
Okay. So that's where a a teacher at the school works with you individually to help you with your individual educational needs, because your needs would be different than a student that might not have special needs.
So I mean, at times I would get extra time to get from class to class, or
Right.
or whatever I would need.
Yeah. But academically, you did not struggle. You did well at school, right?
There were some classes, obviously, that I struggled with, but it was never real. I mean, I was an average student most of the time.
Okay.
You know, I really started to excel with like some of my computer classes, but that was 11 and 12th grade. You know, when we start getting into when computers were coming out.
Yeah.
Math was a struggle for me. My dad would always, come home or whatever, and I would sit down with him with math because he was an engineer. So that was why I got so good, because I sat with him so much.
And your dad was a Purdue grad, right?
Yes, he was.
So
was I.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Both of you.
Yes.
Outstanding. Wow. Yeah, so you chose to go into the field of computer science.
Yes.
And what accreditations and degrees and things did you pursue?
I went to Purdue Northwest, I went to Purdue North Central, which is now Purdue Northwest in Westville.
Mm-hmm.
I chose to stay here because of a 2-year wait list to get down to West Lafayette.
Mm-hmm.
It just made sense to stay up here and just roll right into the program for me. I instead of the 4-year program, I took the 6-year program.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the 6-year program?
It was just.
Was it the Phil took a year off, or
no? It wasn't.
Took less classes, or what'd you do?
I took less classes.
Okay.
Just because the workload was so much with programming, which was never my forte.
Okay.
I struggled with programming, to be honest. I mean, that was something that I couldn't get the logic or something with the languages. So I took a slower program rate with those.
Yeah.
Instead of 2 or 3 a month, a semester, I would take 1 or 2.
Were you learning languages like C++ or Java?
Yeah, it was all that.
Okay.
So it was just, I chose to slow it down more so than anything. And then in the summers, I went to a place in Portage, which is still there, Current Technologies Computer Learning Center. And they teach just certifications. So you get like A+, Network Plus, I think at that point it was MCSE, Microsoft Certified Systems Engineer.
Yeah.
Cisco. At that point, they didn't have like this white hat hacking programs. They didn't have any of the cybersecurity. So I ended up getting A+ certified and Network Plus certified, and those are the 2 basics that never expired for me. Now, if you take those 2 classes, every 3 years you have to get recertified. So A+ is basically your ability to work on computers and troubleshoot them. Network Plus is your basic network level certification.
Now, I've seen you work on computers, and you're quite a whiz. You enjoy that?
Yes.
I think that's great, because for you, that's a perfect career. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be going all over the place. You could work remotely if you wanted to. You are going to be in a chair already. You know what I mean? Like, people just work on computers sitting in a chair, right? So you know what I mean? You're not like having to go out in a truck all day somewhere, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that really is nice, and you enjoy that. And where do you work presently?
I've been at Opportunity Enterprises for 18 years. I started there teaching computers to the clients with disabilities.
Okay.
And then in 2013, they had an opening in the IT department. So I moved up to the IT department to be IT technician. And then in 2018, what was then my boss, he left. So they left. At that point, all day-to-day operations had fallen on me. So I do have a company that backs me up, but I am responsible for day-to-day operations.
Wow. And I know that you've been tremendously helpful to us at Bridgepoint, and even to me personally. If I get into a jam, you're like, I'll take care of it. And I'm like, I don't consider myself computer illiterate, you know.
No.
Like but I'm just nowhere at your level, dude. You'll run circles around me, like really, you will. So it's been fun for me to see you use your skill set to serve your community and to have a career. And you know, talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that you've experienced recently. You went through a period that I wouldn't wish on anyone. And you know, I don't want to bring up pain,
No.
but I think that you probably have a lot to say to people because you had this background in having a disability, which you have clearly overcome.
Yeah.
And now in this last season, particularly in the last 6 months to a year, you have faced things that we wouldn't wish on anyone. Talk about what happened to you and how God gave you the strength or the things that you learned, perhaps.
So, well, let's back up.
Okay.
So, probably 2017, I was living on my own. You know, I started living on my own in 2009. 2017, I moved into a condo and I started going out with my cousin, listening to one of her friends play music in the local pubs and restaurants, Dan Reason. And he, at that point, was leading worship at Grace Point.
Yeah.
And he kept badgering me. Hey, you know, why don't you just show up Grace Point, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, after a couple weeks, I'm like, all right, you know, I'll show up, you know? And I started to realize that, okay, there is more to a lot of things that, you know, I didn't, when my parents divorced when I was 12,
Mm-hmm.
so my mom moved on, you know, I went between houses. It wasn't the focus. It was about, you know, my mom was working so much.
Yeah.
And my dad, you know, I would be with him every other weekend, or, you know, but I mainly lived with my mom. So 2016, 2017, I started attending Grace Point.
Because Dan invited you.
Huh?
Dan Reason.
Yeah, Dan invited me.
I know Dan. He's actually fixed my computers. Upgraded them, rather. But anyhow, go ahead. He likes the putz with computers on the side.
Yeah, he's done a few for me too as well. So I ended up just attending Grace Point, and then they moved to their current location, and then my mom was like, hey, you know, I want to go with you. So her and I started attending Grace Point together. We started tithing there, and then probably 2018, one of the directors at work was like, hey, I want you to meet this girl.
Really?
Well, it wasn't so much that. She kind of set us up in a roundabout way.
Uh-huh.
I ended up sending my now wife a Facebook request. And
see, I'm telling you, it's important to have Facebook. Right?
It is. But you know, God was leading me somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
He was definitely leading me towards Beth because, you know, I was lonely. You know,
yeah,
I
absolutely.
was 30-something years old.
Yeah.
And so when we started tithing, things started to change.
Really?
I can't explain it. Things just started to fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
Like the director mentioned Beth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I sent that friend request. You know, we started talking. We started clicking. You know,
Mm-hmm.
You know, I didn't tell my mom what I was going on Wednesday nights, and
uh-huh. Do
She's
you
like,
think she knew? I mean,
yeah,
come
oh
on.
yeah, she definitely knew.
Oh, mothers are so insightful.
she's
they,
like-
they know so much.
She's like, you don't go out for coffee on Wednesday nights.
There's a girl.
Yeah. So, you know, at that point, I don't remember where it was, but, you know, I still at that point was hunting and stuff and doing stuff on the weekends. And
Yeah.
I would come to church, you know, every once in a while during hunt season. You know, it wasn't my focus. My brain wasn't, I would go like every other week. It wasn't like every week. And Beth kept bugging, she kept bugging me. Dan kept bugging me like, hey, you want to go to church with me? Of course, I'm like, Dan versus girl.
Uh-huh.
So I ended up going a couple times with Beth to go to live.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And at this point, her parents really didn't know about us.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time we went,
You mean Beth's parents?
yes,
No.
Beth's parents.
Yes, they're wonderful people.
So Beth's parents really didn't know about us. And so we ended up going to Road to Life one day. We went to the second service. Beth's like, God, they shouldn't be here. Well, they were still there. So I met them like out of the blue.
Go like, hi, Mom and Dad. This is the guy that came to church with me today.
Yeah, and the one that I've been hiding from you.
Ooh.
So, you know, at that point, you know, my mom kind of took a step back, but, you know, she's like, okay, now that you're... So I started attending Road to Life, and then 2020 hit. Well, I should step back. 2019, I proposed to Beth. Beth and I got married 5 months later, which was a blessing in disguise in the end of March because COVID hit in 2020.
Yes, I remember.
I ended up getting
all too well.
I ended up getting very sick in the hospital for a week and then off work for 3 months. But adding COVID, it ended up being 6 months. So Beth, within the first year of marriage, ended up taking care of me, her husband, without hesitation.
Now, you had COVID?
No, I had a pressure sore from the wheelchair.
Oh, so it wasn't even COVID related?
No, it was a pressure sore from the wheelchair
What?
that was infected and everything. And
Oh, no.
so she stepped up without hesitation, said, I'll take care of him. Because they were talking about, well, do you need visiting nurse?
Oh, okay.
And she's like, no, I will take care of it.
Wow.
So she ended up doing bandage changes, everything, learning how to take care of me. And then COVID hit. So she was taking care of me, dealing with Abby, being home from school.
Mm-hmm. I remember those days.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then 2023, my mom ended up with COVID. And we went over there and she was laying on the floor. And she had a really low body temp and everything. She was dehydrated, everything. Got her to the hospital. She was sedated for a week. Then she came home, but she was pretty much, because of her heart problems that she's had since she had cancer in 2008, 2007, 2008, she was having all kinds of heart problems. And she ended up retaining a lot of fluid with congenital heart failure.
Oh, wow.
And so like the last year she was battling water retention, everything. And so the last year, and then she went in Monday, the 13th of May for a iron transfusion. And then Beth picked her up. I think Beth picked her up and took her home, or she drove, I can't remember. we called her on Tuesday. Hey, how are you? She's like, I've got 101 fever. I don't feel good.
Oh, wow.
And then that Wednesday, Beth went to work. I went to work. We both texted Mom, hey, if you need something, we'll drop everything and come to you. She texted me at like 4 o'clock that afternoon, hey, I want to go to the ER. And I'm like, are you sure you want me to take you? And she's like, yes, I'd like to go to St. Mary's. Because we live in Valpo, they automatically transport to Valpo. And I got there and I could tell that she was just not well. And then she was using her scooter, got her to my car, got her in, and then she fell over. And I was like, okay, she's just tired or whatever. Beth got there, and she's like, hey, your mom slumped over. I said, yeah, I know, because I was putting the scooter back in the garage. Got back to the car, and Mom was not responding at all. So we pulled her out of the car. We ended up having to do CPR on her. There was a cop that was like 2 blocks away. So he ended up coming, responding to the scene. And I was able to get a pulse back on her. But her brain was without oxygen for 52 minutes. So we ended up losing my mom to a massive heart attack on May 15th. In between all this, my dad was battling vocal cord cancer, laryngeal cancer, however you say it. He was hoarse at our wedding, and then March of 23, he finally went to the doctors. Keep in mind, we got married in 2019, and this was March of 23.
So he let a lot of time go by.
He let a lot of time go by because he kept saying it. He kept saying it was allergies. And yeah. So we went up to University of Chicago, which they are amazing up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I have nothing but high regard for the specialists there.
Yeah.
They said, okay, this was like a Thursday or a Friday, and they're like, hey, we're going to do a biopsy that following Wednesday. And obviously, if it's been this way for this long, it's probably 99% chance of being cancer. So for the last year and a half, I was taking him to and from Cancer Treatment Center up in Chicago. 2 rounds of radiation, unknown amount of chemo, radiation, clinical trials. He ultimately ended up succumbing to the cancer on October 5th of this year. So within 5 months, I have lost both my parents.
And you are the
I am the only child.
You're the only child. How has that affected you?
It's affected me a lot because I used to text my mom or my dad every day. I would talk to my mom every day. I would talk to my dad every day on the way home. A quick phone call, hey Dad, how are you doing? It's hard because you can't talk to him. It's there were sometimes I talked to my mom on the way home, just in my mind.
Yeah.
Just because, I've had a hard day at work.
Right.
Sometimes, talking to her in my own mind is comforting. Just because, sometimes Beth may not understand or whatever. My mom was always my soundboard because she was in kind of a leadership role at the hospital when she worked there. So I would always bounce like leadership questions off of her.
Yeah.
My dad kind of he was his own boss. being a project engineer.
54 years.
He worked all the way up till August 30th of this year.
Wow.
Yeah, he was offered his job May 8th of 1970. He graduated in June of 1970.
Yeah.
So he moved from Fort Wayne, Indiana down to Purdue, West Lafayette, and then West Lafayette up to here.
I remember I was with you the night that you were having to make very difficult decisions about your mother.
Yeah.
We were all gathered around her bed, and she was still on life support. So people were making tough decisions.
Yeah.
And your dad came in, and it was so clear to me that he was still emotionally attached to your mother.
It was
so clear.
It was so clear because
Yeah.
when he left, or when I said, okay, we've said our goodbyes,
Mm-hmm.
he kissed my mom on the forehead
Mm-hmm.
and said, I still love you.
Wow.
And that resonates with me.
Yeah.
Even though they had been divorced for 30 plus years,
Mm-hmm.
the love was still there.
Yeah.
The love was still there.
I tell you what, they've. If you love someone, it can be for life.
Yeah, and it definitely can be.
Yeah.
Ups and downs, thick and thin.
So and then your father just had a very difficult time with her passing, and I feel that a couple of people have made the observation that he kind of resigned after that.
And he did.
Yeah.
I could, you know, the day of my mom's celebration of life, you know, he needed something. And I said, Dad, I will get it for you after I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I got over there. I got him, he needed his meds or something. Because at this point, he had lost his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Due to the radiation. So, I mean, yeah, him getting meds is harder for him because he's going to have to write it down and then he's going to have to hand it to him. And so it was just easier for me to take on that role of getting things that he needed from the store, getting things that he needed from the drugstore, whatever.
Right.
He told me, he's like, I just couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it's not that I have wanted to avoid. He's like, one, I'm immune compromised. So, you know, he was worried about himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I fully, ungodly get that with him.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, and the few times that I went up over there the week after my mom passed. So she passed on a Wednesday. We had to go up to Chicago on that following Tuesday for treatment. And he was still crying then. He was crying on and off about mom.
Wow.
And he was asking how I was. I said, Dad, I'm more worried about you right now. I've got to focus on you.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to take care of you. Let's just try to get through today.
And he quickly passed after that.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, really, like, I feel like within a few months.
Yeah, I mean, and that is true. Because he did the second round of radiation. And that was beginning of August. And at that point, it did kill everything that was growing on the outside of his throat. But it caused a whole bunch of ramifications that we just, it burned him.
Mm.
You know, it caused wounds, it caused everything underneath the trach. It caused the trach to expand, it caused wounds. And the doctor said, hey, just so you know, you're doing treatment just to hold it off. it's not getting better. He had the choice for a surgery, and him and my mom did go with us at one point in November when the radiation and chemo first round did not quit. It did not work, I should say. And they ended up talking on the way home. So that, I mean, they kind of still were civil with each other.
Yeah.
But she's like, I don't know if I could even do the surgery, you know, and he's 76 at this point.
Mm.
No, he was 76 or 77. Yeah, he would have been, no, he would have been, yeah, he would have been 76 at this point. And she's like, I don't know if I would do the surgery, even though the cancer was still localized to his throat.
Wow. What are some of the things that, I mean, this has just been a tragedy for your family of epic proportion. Losing two parents within 5 months, having to deal with all of the legal and estate issues, continuing to try to engage in your community and with your family. What are some of the things that God has taught you in the last several months? I mean, you've really been through it.
He's taught me a lot of grace. A lot of grace. And also, the biggest thing is, what happened today does not define tomorrow. Does not define you tomorrow. You know, especially with my mom, it was wham, bam, gone. It taught me to, one, I really do have to watch what I say to my wife, because literally, or anybody else, and this is good for anybody, you know, you should watch your tone. I mean, I still lose my tone with her at times, but, you know, sometimes it's just out of frustration of everything going on. You know, she's not understanding what I'm going through, or what I'm trying to explain to her.
Sure.
It's just the fact that you may say something to somebody, you may not be able to get it back.
No, you actually can't.
And you can't get it back, but
I mean, you might be able to reconnect and, you know, heal that relationship, but yeah, once you say something, you've always said it. Like, you can't retrieve that. You can't walk that back.
There's a classic book called The Four Agreements. Your thoughts, your words, your deeds, your habits. I think it's a must read for everybody, because yeah, the cover's kind of odd, but it goes through along with, like, just how you should honestly approach a lot of things. And yeah, I don't have the greatest relationship with a lot of people in my family, but the way I see it, I still have to show grace. I still have to show mercy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, do I feel like I'm doing this alone? Yes, at a point I do, but I firmly believe Mom didn't pass without her knowing that I was cared for with Beth. You know, and that Beth has said that numerous times. She's like, your mom didn't pass until she knew that you were taken care of for the rest of your life.
That is remarkable. That is remarkable. I feel like it's so, like, people just have this ability to just hold on and until a certain situation is met. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Wow. And God gave you grace through all of this. And is that grace like a gift of his strength to you, or his grace for you to deal with the situation, to give to others? What do you mean?
I think
Talk about that a little bit.
I think a lot of the grace is just to deal with the situation,
Mm-hmm.
but also to show everybody you can be strong in the face of adversity, no matter what.
I liked what you said about what happens to you today does not define you for tomorrow. And although you've had a lot of tragedy in your life and you've had a lot of adversity, that has not affected you. And your faith has only made you stronger. I think that your story is such an inspiration for people because, I mean, I wish people could know you the way I do. They're just going to get a snapshot of you today. Like, you're just not going to let it hold you back. And I think that is a brilliant thing that everyone needs a good dose of. And yet you have overcome repeatedly. And you're not allowing yesterday to define your future.
And I mean,
that's amazing.
I did a lot of things growing up. I did martial arts growing up. I do working out. You know, I did the gym for a really long time. I'm getting back into that. So I mean, nothing should hold you back in your life. It's your mindset. It literally is your
mindset. Yes, sir.
I mean, that's all it is. I can't do it. Yes, you can. Get off your butt and do it.
Well, you know what I think? I think that's a good place to land the plane. Get off your duff and do it, because you can.
Yeah.
Amen?
Yeah.
Amen. Hey, everyone, thanks so much for joining us. It was great to have you listen and hear the testimony of Phil, not letting what happened to you today define you tomorrow. And until the next time you stop by, keep your eyes on Jesus, and let's follow him together. Amen? Amen. Thanks, Phil.
Yeah.